Okay, so hello everyone, hola a todas y todos. This is Christian Landaeta from my YouTube channel with two incredible and very nice guests. I think that want to introduce themselves. That's the best thing that can happen today. Steve and Per. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Pierre. You go first.
I go first. Yeah. Okay. My name is Per Thomhav. I'm from Denmark. Um, yeah. I play with Steve in the band Synth Replicants. And yeah, over to you, Steve.
Okay, I'm Steve Labrecque from Connecticut in New England in the United States. Primarily a guitar player, but I play drums and bass as well. Initially in the band Night Rider, which funny enough is a hard rock, heavy metal-ish kind of band, and joined up with Pierre and Synth Replicants a couple of years ago. And Dreams of Paradise is our second album together. And I don't even know how many Pierre had before I joined up with him, but many. But I'm very happy to be working with him, and I think we've come up with kind of a unique blend of electronic and progressive rock music.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was telling Pierre, sorry, the other day when we were speaking with poor Ellis as well about Orpheus, and yeah, I sat down. I haven't had the time to sit down and listen to the whole album, but I thought it was really special and different, and I have a few points of view that I would like to share with you to see how you feel about them. Yeah. Well, my first question: how does an American rocker meet a Danish electronic musician? How does it happen?
Well, I've always been a Tangerine Dream and Berlin School, Klaus Schulze fan on top of, all kinds of other music. I'm also a huge jazz fan and progressive rock and hard rock. So I, a few years ago, joined some Tangerine Dream Facebook, groups where people are just fans of that kind of music. And I think one day Pierre advertised some kind of tribute album, greatest hits for free or pay, name your price. And I always like to support, musicians. So I bought his entire collection, as I recall, not only that album, but his whole collection. And he sent me a note thanking me, and we just struck up a conversation. And I think it was Pierre that said, hey, sometimes I would love to have a guitar on a song here or there. And, maybe I will reach out to you. And I just thought, well, he's being nice, And it was about 8 months later. It was Easter Sunday, I remember. I was with my family a few years ago. And he said, hey, I have a song. I would love you to put guitar on it. He sent it to me. I sent it back to him in 3 or 4 days, and he loved it. And we said, let's do a whole album together. And that's how it started, really just one fan reaching out, a fan of the same kind of music, finding each other online.
Yeah, in fact, I have to say that I'm impressed by the number of albums that Synth Replicants have. Lots of albums, like 18 or something, and a few EPs and singles. So it's a really incredible and amazing production. Yeah, massive production. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Pierre, would you like to add something?
Been productive, yes. Well, it just came naturally to produce all those albums. The work with Steve has been amazing. 2 years has passed, and 2 albums is out. Yeah, what can I say? Everything is going good. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Now, Dreams of Paradise, released 2 weeks ago, something like it, brings me personally some airs of several albums and artists I truly admire and love, from Klaus Schulze with Harold Groskop's drumming, which I love, and also some guitar airs from people like, I don't know, Stephen Rothery, Marillion, Stephen Rothery, Pendragon's, Nick Barrett, whom I admire a lot, and been lucky to airplay a lot in my specials since the mid-80s, and in a lesser degree, some Gilmoreish touches here and there. So I suppose that some of them are on your playlist or have been on your playlist up to now. Any inspiration, Stephen or Pierre?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit a few days ago, you and I offline, and
Yeah.
David Gilmour and Steve Rothery would be the two that I would pick as major influences to the guitar playing on these two albums with Per. And it's kind of funny. I mean this I'm not just self-deprecating, but I'm not a flashy, really fast guitar player. Like my favorite guitar player in the world is Michael Schenker from UFO and then later solo, but I couldn't possibly play as fast as him. So I have always approached the guitar like a composer as opposed to a shredder, where I'm trying to make people feel things and more focused on the melody, something that you might find yourself humming in the shower the next morning and not know where it came from. And I think for me, it's something I prefer to do, and it's something I have to do because I can't just play like crazy fast. So I find David Gilmour and Steve Rothery are just great examples of players that have just such beautiful, haunting, emotional guitar solos, and yet they're not playing, lightning fast on the guitar, which seems to be so popular these days, is just to play as fast as possible. And it's not the way I like to do it. And you picked the two; those are two exactly the people that I'm not maybe consciously trying to emulate, but very much admire their style.
Well, I suppose it must be very difficult to separate, to leave totally behind, sorry, your influences. And as a musician, I'm not a musician, so I'm just supposing things. But I understand what you mean. Now, you just mentioned this, Steve. How do you divide? Where is the dividing line between this flashy, speedy, like playing and the heart? I understand that to you the heart is first. Yeah.
Well, it kind of gets into how we write together, and I don't want to do all the talking, but Per is he produces
fine by me.
He produces so much music, and he's always sending me things. And I would use the metaphor of Per builds the foundation for the house, maybe even builds the house and I decorate the inside of the house. I don't know how to explain it, but it always starts with something from him. And initially I will just play over it, and I record like every take that I'm doing. And I will sometimes sit on it for weeks until I find myself humming a particular melody that I might have played even by accident. And then I go, and I'll even tell Per, I found the theme. I use that word, the theme. I found the theme I'm going to use on the song. And then I develop it from there very much in a compositional kind of way, where the guitar solos that I do become very deliberate, meaning every note kind of been planned out for maximum effect, for melody and emotion. And then it goes back to Per, and he normally then gets inspired and will add more stuff to that. So it's kind of a ping pong ping process.
Yeah.
And it works. It works, I think.
It does. Indeed,
let me ask.
It does.
Yeah. Let me ask you formally, Per. How do you create? This was my next question, in fact. How do you create? Do you agree on a structure of the tracks? Are you open to just play if you have an idea, or is there a definition in the roles? But Steve just explained something of it. What's your view on that?
It depends. Days go by where you only find the sounds for the synth 2, 3, 4 hours a day, just searching libraries. I got 1 million sounds for my synthesizers, and going through all libraries, finding all the right tunes, and then from there, when you're in the mood, starting to create something. And then when I have, let's say, 10, 12 tracks, I send it to Steve, and then he'll return it to me. And then, yeah, as he tells, it ping pongs like that.
Mhm.
So it's very different. Sometimes it comes naturally. You sit to the computer and the synthesizers, and it just comes a melody. Other times you use days just finding sounds.
I guess there must be good days and not so good days where you say, okay, we've been developing this, but it doesn't work out, so let's leave it behind, and then you go to the next thing. Or do you usually have a very good understanding of each other, like everything, comes in the end to the final plan, so to speak?
We always come to an agreement.
Yeah.
Steve has Steve is how do you say that, Steve? What are you? You are into details.
Mm.
Yeah, very detail oriented.
Yeah.
But I think there's only been one or two songs that he pitched to me, and then I wasn't able to pitch something back to him, and I still kind of have them somewhere in the back of my brain. But there's never been a situation so far where I pitch something back to him and we just get disconnected and we throw something away. We work very well together, and
Indeed. Yeah.
it's been a very enjoyable process, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and this is the second album, yes?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And we're already a couple of songs into the next one.
And how do you see the evolution between? I mean, if there's something that we can describe as evolution between the first one and this new one, did you want to make any changes to make it sound different?
No. We both agreed that the sound that we have now is unique. It is how do you say it? A combination of progressive rock and the Berlin School genre, and somehow it's unique for you don't hear other bands with this sound. Not quite the side. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know that it was conscious on my part, but I agree with what Pierre said. But on that first album, Pierre he was Synth Replicants for all these years with all these albums. He very graciously asked me to play, and looking back, I think what was probably slightly more tentative on the first record than I was on this Dreams of Paradise, where because we were doing something that I felt was new and different, I was a little nervous about it. I still am slightly nervous about it because the traditional Berlin School fans that Pierre had, we lost a few along the way that said, well, oh gee, what's these crazy guitar solos and drums and bass, and so I think I was very much on the first album trying to maybe not go too crazy. And on the second album, I think both of us felt very confident that we had something that was unique. And you know what? Some people are going to love it. Some people aren't, but let's just go for it, and let's not hold back anything. And that's I think if there's a change from the first album to this one, it's maybe a certain confidence and a certain swagger. I don't know how else to say it, where we just said, like, you know what, let's just go for it.
Exactly. And one thing I would like to mention as well, that Steve and I, we are in for the music, not for anything else, only for the music. We are in for having fun. We're in for having finding some inspiration between us. We are not in for fame or fortune or money or sales or whatever. It's only for having the music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like that, really. It sounds very fresh, though it brings memories from other, albums, musicians. But it's an incredible. You know what I was going to say? It does sound as if you had been recording this together in a same studio, which is not the case, I understand. And that makes some kind of magic present and some originality that's quite obvious to me. That's my impression. But you never,
It's probably worth, for the non-musicians that may be watching, but the musicians would understand this. But within the last 5 to 10 years, probably the last 5. I think what Per and I is doing is very common, because internet speeds have become what they are, and what they call digital audio workstations, DAWs, which we're now both using Studio One, no paid advertisement there, but we were able, as so many other bands are now, we're able to trade these files back and forth in such short periods of time, that what he and I are doing, half a world away, we've never met in person. This is more common today than I think people realize. And I don't know, I'm a Neil Morse fan, and one of his bands is Transatlantic, where he has the bass player from Marillion and the guitar player from the Flower Kings, and he had Mike Portnoy on drums. And I think there have been entire albums that have been recorded where every single member of the band is in a different country. Mm-hmm. So it's thanks to technology, really, that makes this possible.
And it possibly doesn't keep you on the verge of this limitations of time in the studio. Though right. Although the face-to-face thing is still meaningful to me. You might agree with that, but I understand what you mean.
Oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Pierre and I say all the time, we wish we were sitting side by side.
Oh, yeah.
At certain periods of time, because it can be frustrating in words to go back and forth and try to describe something. So we're continuing to work on that, and there are some other emerging technologies that are going to allow us to be more present at the same time. Even if we just use that during the mixing phase, I don't know, but I'm glad it at least sounds like we're in the same room. We wish we were.
You might, yeah, you eventually might be one day. I was going to mention, Per and Steve, tracks like Let There Be Life, and I was going to ask you, how do you decide between what to me sounds like acoustic drums, the typical drums, and a sort of drum box in this particular track, which at the same time reminds me a little bit, sorry, I'm a music fan, of people like Sober, Mergener-Weisser, where in fact there is some guitar playing. Like you have two different types of tracks. Maybe this is not very meaningful to you as musicians, but yeah, there's this like typical drumming, and then you have this little more soft sound of the drums for different tracks, certainly.
I let the way we do it, Pierre handles what I will call the more traditional Berlin school percussion samples, and then I handle what probably is more of a traditional rock sounding set of drums. And deciding when to use what, that gets to be compositional.
Indeed.
Those are decisions that take repeated listenings to decide where you want the ebb and flow of emotion, where you want some power to come in, to come back, to take people on a bit of a journey. It's hard to describe why we do one or the other, but that's how we split the responsibility between the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. It's also one of the things that define the sound that we have, both the electronic sound and the guitar, the bass, and the drums from Steve. This mixture of all this, that's the sound of the new Synth Replicants. To sum it up, yeah.
Yes.
I was going to ask in a different area, your connection, your attraction, your interest to the unknown supra-terrestrial reality, or openly speaking, to alien life. I think we did speak something about this 2 weeks ago, Pierre. I don't know what Steve's views are on this, the inspiration. Yeah.
You go first, Pierre. Here, you go first.
Well, we both have an interest in sci-fi movie world, and also Steve reads a lot of books, sci-fi books, and I've always been fascinated by this extraterrestrial things, UFOs and aliens, and yeah, it just came as a natural kind of thing to mix that into to our music. From the start, I had this logo, the Umbrella Man, and he continues following us as well as the aliens. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he just said it, but I mean, I can still remember I was probably 12 or 13 and picking up an Arthur C. Clarke book. I think it was The Island of the Blue Dolphins in the public library where I grew up. And then ultimately saw 2001: A Space Odyssey very young when it first came out. Now I'm really aging myself. But I have probably read hundreds, if not thousands, of both science fiction, fantasy, the Lord of the Rings type stuff. That's pretty much all I read. And I'm just a huge fan of it. And so, yes, it's a shared inspiration that we have. And it makes for, frankly, beside music, and I do a bit of painting, reading, I probably go through a book every 4 days. I'm just constantly reading.
Yeah, there are some illustrations on the Bandcamp of Synth Replicants that show these extraterrestrial, these aliens. So it's quite evident that there's some interest. And I don't know if Per wants to add anything.
No.
No, that's it. Okay.
It's said, yes, indeed.
Right.
Yeah, it is just common interest in this sci-fi universe that we both share. So yeah.
Now, this is my opinion. Artificial intelligence is touching most areas of human knowledge, from education to art creation. Do you have a positive feeling about this new, seemingly irreversible toy? That's the way I call it, considering it is a self-taught entity, and we know there have been some what we would call mutinities, where artificial intelligence communities were caught creating its own secret codes or languages. What does it mean to you? Isn't it scary, but at the same time interesting?
Oh, I could do 20 minutes on that.
Yeah, let's do a special Zoom next time. But because personally, I've been, I've been trying to discover ways to transcribe the audios from my interviews and then putting them on YouTube. But I think it's a fascinating, but at the same time, a little bit scary. Maybe I'm ignorant about the topic.
No,
Christian, we just launched visual on you. There's only audio. Now you're back. You're back now. No.
Yeah. I have a message. Yeah. I will make a pause here. So we were saying, we were talking about artificial intelligence. Yes. And
No, I guess I could talk a long time about that, but I am excited and very concerned at the same time, as many people are. And I guess let's put it into musicians and everything else first for the purposes of this discussion. I mean, who wouldn't be excited about the greatest computers, even if they're virtual minds, working on solving, cancer and all kinds of childhood diseases and solving hunger, and maybe something comes out of that is just a game changer for us as a whole human species. That's just a wonderful thing. But in terms of musicians, it's already very difficult, even for phenomenally talented musicians, to even be heard today. There's just so much music. What did we read the other day, Pierre? That more music comes out in a day now than it did in the entire year of 1986 or something like that. And if you go, I already see it happening, where if you just happen to browse YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, there are AI generated musicians. You can tell because of the way the video kind of morphs in and out, and the fingers on the guitar don't even line up with the strings quite big. And those are, if you will, stealing attention away from the real musicians. And so it's just going to get harder. And, will there come a day that people will just say into their phone, play me sad Christmas music, and it'll just be generated by a computer somewhere, not even real musicians. And I worry then the long-term implications of that. As it is, it's financially very difficult for musicians today to pursue that as a career and to make enough money to sustain themselves. And so I'll stop there, but that's I'm excited for what it potentially does for us as a society, and very concerned for what it potentially does to musicians.
I totally agree on that, Steve. There are pros and there are cons. I see a lot of potential, not for the music and not for musicians at all. We saw Jean-Michel Jarre using this AI for his Eon album that, in my personal view, never got any success. It was bad from start to finish, and yeah, I don't see anything good for musicians in the AI, not at all.
Now, in case you weren't aware, there's well, I think it's interesting. Some people say it's terrible. There's a full Pink Floyd album created with artificial intelligence. It's the whole album is there on YouTube, so it does sound very similar, if not identical, to David Gilmour's voice and all the rest. But again, it's like it, as Steve says, it would take more than 20 minutes to discuss this. Yeah. Yeah. Now going back to my original script, Synth Replicants, 11 singles and EPs, 18 albums. This is a special question. What makes you connected and willing to make more and more music every time? I read, and I know that Steve says that, well, same as to me, music is always almost my air, a parallel way of, breathing. Where's the energy come from?
Go ahead, Pierre, you want to go, or?
It's hard to answer that question. Yeah, indeed. I think it's a love for the music, and you need to see that we do the music for ourselves, and of course for the people who like to listen. But I don't know how to put it.
It's like your house in the tree. The music, making music, is your small space.
Yeah, it is indeed. And I don't know if we should. We won't be discussing this for long. But I had some bad years with some illness, and I used this music to like heal myself. So yeah. The music.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my dad was a big band swing drummer. My mom sang in the church and did plays, musicals and things. It was always around. At 12 or 13, when my friends were outside on their bikes or playing baseball, I was just filling notebooks with lyrics and writing songs. And for me, it's different than it's a nice place to go because I enjoy it, like a treehouse. It's just who I am. It's like saying, why is your hair blonde? Why are you 6 feet tall? It is just who I am, and it would seem unnatural not to do it.
Nice way of putting it.
Yeah. And there are times, it sounds really like conceited to say, but there are times when I feel like all I'm really doing is channeling it from somewhere else. Like I'm just the vehicle that it's coming through. And because some of these things write themselves while I'm sleeping even. And I have probably 100 videos. I'm so stupid. I'll grab my phone, and sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I just turn it on video and I'll just hum into it. And I'll figure this out later, but I don't want to lose it. And the stuff just comes. It's not every day. Some days I wake up and I don't want to touch the guitar today. I want to do something else. But it's just who, I think this is true for most musicians, painters, poets. You know, if you're truly a creative, you know, ceramics, whatever it is you do, it's just written in your DNA. It's who you are.
Now let's talk about these platforms that you and I know, ending in Y, all the fives, and versus Bandcamp. I know what your pick is at the moment because I see your very interesting and fully loaded Bandcamp website. At the moment of deciding how to promote your music and selling your music, although you don't want to, you're not in the music for the money or fortune or fame. What happens with all the platforms that, you know, there's so much music these days that people, I always ask my students, what are your favorite bands? And they have no answer because they don't even realize that once they like one band, it's already over and then comes the other one. But when in our days, when I was listening to Tangerine Dream, I would only know Klaus, Schulze, and Genesis, Pink Floyd, yes, etc. But now it's hundreds and hundreds. So there's no enough life to listen to all that. Yeah. Some of it is very good, some of it is not. So what's your view on the Bandcamp and all the rest?
You know, I guess like a similar answer to AI. I mean, without Bandcamp, without things like Spotify, thousands of independent musicians like Pierre and I would just be unheard completely by the mainstream, by anyone. We would be in our studios and playing music for our friends or ourselves. So the positive side is these music services you speak of and Bandcamp have made it possible for so many people to get their music out there. But when there's an infinite supply of things, then the value gets to near zero. So the artists are being paid fractions of pennies every time the music gets played. And, you know, we could have our music streamed in 80 countries 20,000 times and make more money from 3 people buying a CD. Okay, so it's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like Steve said earlier, there are 100,000 new songs each day. 100,000 new songs each day. You got to be more than lucky. You could buy a lottery ticket, or you could go to Bandcamp and say, I want to be famous. You have these two things. It's so hard to get noticed, even on Bandcamp, on YouTube, Spotify, you name it. There are so many. And if you know how many hours we are using to do promotion of our music, I guess less than a penny an hour is our income.
There's a guy in Canada that's been paying lots of attention to your music. I guess I just checked his Bandcamp, and one of the projects that he's among his 900 something favorite bands is Synth Replicants. Sylvain something.
Sylvain,
yeah.
Sylvain,
yeah. He seems to be an interesting. He's been promoting music for a long time, and yeah. So. Have you been interviewed by? I'm not sure if he does radio or he just have a.
No, Sylvain he ran a music blog where he made reviews of newcomers from all kind of albums, and he was doing a really great job in promoting newcomers and but unfortunately he got sick a year ago and had to stop in his music blog.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was, yeah, his Bandcamp is called Fedrin, Fedrin, like Fedra.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Yeah, it's good that there are people that are interested in your music, and as Steve says, unless Bandcamp, I mean, if Bandcamp wasn't there, it would be more difficult. Uh, how fresh, Steve and Per, or derivative is the word, you sense or you feel today's rock is? Do you think there's lots of original bands, original sounds, or is it still, as we say in Chile or in Spanish, frying everything again, frying all the ingredients again for a new pancake?
I think there's two ways to look at that, and I talk about this all the time with my musician friends. I don't really enjoy much of what's popular, and but if you want to do the work, do the research. There is some incredible music being made today, and there are, thanks to the music services and the internet. I mean, I find a band every week just about that I didn't know existed from the middle of nowhere that probably will never be popular and no one will ever hear about, but their music is incredible. So you're just not going to see it, on the Super Bowl halftime show. And it's just not going to be on the quote radio. I'm not begrudging that. The younger people today like that stuff, but if you want to do the research, there's some phenomenal music that I do not think is derivative. It's just not very popular.
Mm.
Yeah.
But you also need to like the music we made, have a sound and yeah, have an approach to the music that no one else has. The sound is different. You can find thousands of bands on Bandcamp, and they all sound exactly the same. And that makes the music numb. You can find, as Steve say, if you search, you can find some really, really good artists out there, but it's hard to find. It's really hard to find.
I'm sure
now,
you're
with that said, will there ever be another Yes or Genesis, or will a band ever make that kind of impact? A Tangerine Dream, if you want to go heavy metal, the Black Sabbath, the people that were the grandfathers that invented entire genres. You could argue everything's derivative from that because none of it would exist without them. But I think a lot of people, a lot of musicians our age say, well, there's no good music being made anymore. I'm not a believer in that. I believe there's some phenomenal music out there. It just takes some work to find it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What's next for you two, Steve and Per? You say that there's a new album on the way. What apart from that?
We are in the progress of making new album. I guess summer next year or something like that. It will be ready. We take the time.
And how long did you take to make the previous one, the one that you just released, Dreams of Paradise?
8 months.
What do you think? 8 months? I was going to say like 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, 8 months, I think. Yeah.
And do you usually leave many tracks out, a few tracks out, none of them?
I don't think we left any tracks out on the last record or either of those two records.
No.
I normally beg for the summer off, and Pierre never takes any time off, but I like to I like a couple months by the pool in the summer. But no, we'll work on the next record, and I think if you asked many bands, they probably don't. It's not like a game of chess where you're looking 4 or 5 moves ahead. We're just, okay, let's make another one, and try to keep evolving a little bit. Musically, try to make it a little bit more interesting each time. We have a particular thing that Pierre said, this is our sound, and we're not going to stray too far from that, but I think we both get along very well, and we enjoy the process, and I don't see why we wouldn't keep going.
Yeah.
Me neither. What about you, Bear? Maybe he has a
Well,
different
yeah,
opinion.
no, well said. Well said. No, we'll continue. There's no rush. Steve liked to go to the swimming pool. I like to sit in front of my computer and well, there's no rush getting the new album out. We have an idea. We are going in an Asian theme for the next one. Yeah, and I guess we have the platform for 3 or 4 new tracks already. So yeah, it will be ready around summer next year.
Have you ever considered an album like a conceptual album, they call them, with not separate tracks, but one single thing? Maybe the Asian thing that you're just mentioning. Will be developing one long piece divided into sections or something, or you don't work music that way? I mean, it just comes out. It's a non-musician
Yeah,
question. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
It is a progress. You can't say this tune has to be 6 minutes long. This has to be 12. Steve gets mad at me if I pass the 15 minutes time.
Strong confessions here. Confession alarm.
But
Yeah.
I use metaphors a lot, but you often don't just get in your car and start driving. You normally have a place that you're intending to go. But I think with our music, there's very little of that. It's very much just ethereal kind of let it flow process. So, I have an idea that I shared with Pierre for what I would call truly an ambient album, which would be very, very quiet, like a meditation record, and probably wouldn't have any of the rock drums or anything on it. And the guitar would be very quiet. I don't know that we'll get around to that, but for the most part, we really don't preconceive of this is how it's going to sound. We just start writing, and whatever the music is, this is starting to sound like a science fiction theme, or this is starting to sound like that. And we let the music speak to us, if you will.
Yeah, well, I guess that music does have to flow instead of being, patterned. I mean, be made in patterns, like following certain rules. It would be very boring to you as creators, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's fair that we mention Steve Tavern, your project Tavern. Is it still going on?
No, well, that as I said, I was in a hard rock band called Knight Rider for 40 years. And when we were all stuck in our house during COVID, I made a solo record, and I just decided not to put my name on it, and I called it Tavern, Tavyrn. But it's essentially it's a Knight Rider record where I'm playing everything on it. Will I do another one of those? I don't know. I'm so busy doing the Synth Replicant stuff. I don't know. And I'm also getting older and mellower, where this kind of electronic music is a little bit more appealing to me now. And this is where my inspiration is. I'm not writing a lot of hard rock these days, so I'm not ruling it out, though.
Are you very worried about aging? You've mentioned it like a couple of times. Everybody is. I'm 64, and I'm not sure about Per, but I was going to ask you, Per and Steve, what are you afraid of, and what makes you extremely happy? Two extremes, two extreme sensation feelings.
Music makes me happy. Music is 100% my life and will always be. Of course, my family, my children. I've got 4 daughters. They are my one and only thing in this world.
Are they musically minded too? Not yet.
They are creative.
Look at that.
Not into music, but they are creative. Yeah. Afraid? No, I'm not afraid of age. I just turned 57. Yeah, still a young bloke.
Yeah, still a young guy. Yeah.
A young guy. No, I don't think there's nothing I'm afraid of. No.
Steve?
Well, what makes me happy is probably easier. I have 3 daughters and 2 grandchildren, with one on the way. I'm 61, by the way. and and watching, you know, them grow into the people that they've become, who I'm very proud of, and my son-in-laws, and you know, music obviously, but you know, there's nothing more rewarding than watching a child you brought into the world turn into a successful, decent, good-hearted human being. And I guess, what am I afraid of? It's probably morbid, but I would just be if somebody told me I had 6 months to live today, I would not be. I mean, it'd be sad, but I think it would be just dying suddenly without having a chance to say goodbye, or yeah, that would probably be it. I try not to focus too much on current events and the state of the world, and it's a crap show. So I keep my head in my music, in my science fiction and fantasy books, and in my family, and let the politics run itself, you know, in the world. So
sounds very good. Sounds very positive, and I hope you do keep this, I mean, positive attitude here. And Steve, because it's, as you say, what we all need in front of a very particular or dark scenario that we've been having these recent years everywhere. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's happening. Strange things are happening everywhere. So let's face them with good music. And I think I want to say again, Dreams of Paradise by Synth Replicants is definitely one of the albums that has caught me in recent months. I don't have much time to listen to music. There's so much music we've been talking about here today. But Orpheus by Paul Ellis and Per and Synth Replicants is also a big surprise. And as you were saying, you were able to give it a special personality. Totally, it does have a unique sound, and I'm going to be playing it, sharing your music very soon in one of my radio shows on RRC Radio. So yeah, thanks for the time, for the interest. Good luck in Mexico. Enjoy the trip, Steve. And this shouldn't be the last time we meet. Yeah.
Christian, thank you so much for supporting us, and very wonderful to meet you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Thank you.